Mike McCool here in the Royal Examiner Studio, and with me today is Kristen Pence. Kristen is the chairman of the Warren County School Board. Congratulations or condolences, on that job. We've been talking to Kristen for the last year, and we've been toiling with the idea of getting, coming in every couple weeks, bringing maybe another board member with you,
Absolutely.
so we can really talk about things that are going on in the school system. I think it's good to get some public awareness of what's going on. We kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And I think even people that don't have kids in school are, they talk, you know what I mean?
Right.
They have a big influencer. And so I thought it's a good idea. We're doing it with the town council. The mayor has been bringing in a councilman at least once a month. And we're talking to people, just talking. So
Sure.
You had a meeting last night.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's what brought me here.
It finally
today.
motivated her to
It
get
did.
here.
It motivated me to get here. I think last night at our meeting, we had a lot of good conversations that got started. We had parents that showed up to start addressing some of the discipline issues, some of the
Right.
bullying issues, and the vaping issues that we're seeing in our schools. I think it's really important that we hear that together as a community, that the board is aware, that our teachers, our parents, our students, and again, our community
Right.
members know this is really an issue that we're dealing with in our schools. This board is hearing what the parents are telling us, what they're seeing in our schools. We absolutely need to have those discussions, and we
Right.
need to work together here
Right.
as a community. We started the discussion last night about what do we need to look at with our discipline policies.
Right.
What's that going to look like going forward? So the next couple of board meetings will certainly be dedicated to having those open conversations. I really encourage parents to keep the conversations going and let us know, what are your experiences? What are you seeing? Just as we'll continue to try to communicate that out to our community so we can all be hopefully on the same page and
Right.
get a plan together
Right.
for our students.
Yeah, I think people just want to know that they're being heard. And speaking of discipline, we look at the incident or the situation that happened, but a lot of times what leads up to that and what caused that, it could be maybe things completely not related to whatever the outcome was. Sometimes, you stepped on my foot, now I'm over here, you're beating each other up. You know what I mean?
Well,
So-
we just need to get, those little things
Yeah,
as
little.
they're popping up. How are we going to address those, and what can we work through early on before we get into
Right.
a big situation?
Sure. I think the thing too, kind of on a national level is trickling down to our local level. It's just that people feel like, there's one set of rules for this group and another set of rules for another group. And I think what we need in the school is these are the rules and they apply to everybody.
They will apply to every person.
Right.
And I think that's what we need to look at and see, is there a tiered approach? What we are finding with our current discipline policies is we do have policies in place, but what we're finding is they've sort of been layered on top of each other.
And got a loophole over here.
Well, there's a direct conflict with some
Right,
of them. So it's going to just, over the years, as a new policy is introduced, sometimes it layers on top of itself. So we
Yeah.
need to make sure that they're clear, that there's no confusion, and then that we know our buildings are following
Right.
those policies.
Well, what I say in management is you inspect what you expect, and that's a real problem with businesses and organizations. They set up policies, but they never go back and inspect what they expect. And I think that's probably something that you mentioned. That's really what you do as a board or as a CEO or a board of directors. You go back and say, are our policies being followed?
Right.
And if they're not, then we address that problem before we have this problem over here. And sometimes, that could be just as simple as that. Showing up and looking around. What they say, you can find a lot out by just showing up, looking around.
It's true, and communication is going to be the key. That's
It
another big discussion
Sure.
that we've had, and that we need to continue having moving forward.
Right.
Parents want to know what is happening in the schools, and they need
Right.
to know what is happening in the schools, and we need to figure out how can we get that information to them as quickly as possible.
Right.
We're never going to be able to probably tell all of the information that everyone wants to know, but we're not going to hide behind not being able to say
Right.
anything. So
Yeah.
we need to get that out.
Sometimes you kind of have one arm tied behind your back because you're governed by federal law, state law, local law, and just good common sense sometimes.
Right. We need to see what can we get out there, and we need to get that information out there.
And trying to protect the privacy and rights of other people at the same time. So it's kind of like,
It's a lot to juggle.
It's a lot of juggle. I know it is when you have those situations. So a couple other things you at your meeting last night, you had the discipline issue. You've talked. I've seen a couple people talked about cameras again. That's a topic you've had a lot of discussion on.
We have, and that's been a lot of really good input from our parents, from our teachers, from our community members. That actually didn't get discussed as part of our agenda last
Right.
night, but we did have parents that
But you
spoke
haven't-
on it, and we have an ongoing conversation about what that's going to look like
Right.
moving forward, and that's still something that absolutely can and should be considered and discussed.
Well, one of the things I noticed, you finally got to the stage of voting on that VSBA. That's been on the table for a long time.
Feels like a year. Yeah.
Feels like a year.
Years.
But that kindly come to a vote, and that's something that you guys. How do you feel about that?
Ultimately, we did vote to leave the VSBA last night. We had a delegate that was working hard to have our voice heard from Warren County. I think the overall feeling was, that wasn't successful. We tried to use it the way that it's meant to be. We didn't feel it was the fit for us at this time.
Right,
so we voted to leave. We had already left the policy services with the VSBA over a year ago.
Right,
so
I
that's not
remember that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's not different. Really, our main service from them at this point is we carry our board docs through them,
Right.
which we're able to continue doing with or without our membership.
Right.
So when it came down to it, I think it was the right decision for us.
Good. And most of the board agreed.
We did.
You
Yes.
know, that's a good thing. So, what other kind of things that were highlighted, say, last night?
Well, we also had some good points that came. We started our meeting with AS Roads and Warren County Middle School coming to get the attendance awards for the year. And I know, we've pushed out this new attendance policy, and we're trying to have parents in our community and our students realize the importance of academic success in being in your seat every day.
Because that's really falls back on your accreditation. If you have too many absences, it makes you look bad.
Well, not just that, it affects our
does,
accreditation. So our chronic absenteeism rate, if we don't achieve those numbers, then we have schools accredited with conditions.
That's not a good thing.
No, it's not. It's not what we want. So we're working together on that. We also had Warren County High School there talking about their community partner building blocks program. So that's something they've had a lot of great community support from, and that's allowing their students to attend every event free, every
Sure.
home event
That's
through
right.
the
We were
year.
at the last football game, and
Yeah.
a lot of students were there.
Yeah.
I was at Warren County High School last night. Something good. We had
Yes.
the National Honor Society induction ceremony. Had 32 kids that got inducted into the National Honor Society. A lot of parents showed up. Of course, the stories on the Royal Examiner.
Right.
But we've had tons and tons of positive comments from the community congratulating and really appreciate things like that. And so there's always good things going on, and I try to stress the good things going
Well,
on.
and thank you for always being
Yeah.
such a good community partner and getting some of our good messages
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of good things going on in our schools. I just don't know if people realize it. We always see a couple bad things, and that gets all the headlines. But I know Warren County High School is, they're doing this partner program. The DECA program is involved.
really strong.
It's really strong, and even from a statewide, we've
Went to state.
went to state, went to nationals, and for a small high school,
Yep.
that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And maybe the public doesn't realize how big it is, but it's a big deal. And
is.
and again, you don't realize how those students have graduated and moved on, and now they've gone on to college, and and you go back and you talk to them, they say that made a big difference in their life. It changed their lives by
It does.
having that interaction with the DECA program. So
Teaching them those life skills.
life
basically,
skills,
is what it
I think
does.
that's what people want. And
Yeah.
what I find interesting is they do partner with the community and other businesses, and there's businesses and one of our own as well. I feel good about helping people that want to learn, and want to do things. It's not like you're not forcing them to do it. They come, they're like
Right.
sponges. They want to do it. So that's a good
That's
thing.
going to be a successful partnership when you
It
have
is,
someone that's
and there's-
engaged.
Gobs of businesses in town that support those programs, and so it's a good thing.
It is. We also had Mr. Williams there from E. Wilson talking about the Early Act Club.
Isn't
He
that a
had
cool
two-
thing? They have
Yes.
done so much for that school,
Yep.
and I love that. Well, they may have changed the name of it now, but that Boys the Gentleman program.
It's all really kind of one program
It is.
now, but
And
Early
that-
Act has expanded.
But I tell it's funny. I use the same metaphor. They put those jackets on those little kids, and they just are completely different people. I can remember years ago when I had a lot of telephone sales, and guys would work here and they have their T-shirt on. I give them all neckties to put on. The sales went up.
Right. Well, and they used to go out into the community and practice their handshakes with business
makes a big
owners, and
difference.
yeah.
Those little skills you learn will stick to them for their whole life. So those are good things that are happening.
There are a lot of good things, and I think the good thing, even hearing the bad things last night, what we really need to come together with is what's our plan going forward.
Right,
and,
right.
I think having these kind of conversations, this is just the two of us, but,
Right.
Trying to figure out how as a community can we have some of those more open forums. Our
Right.
public meeting isn't really the place.
No,
That's not
no.
the place for that. It turned into a little bit of that last night, which was
Right.
okay. It was important discussions to be had. But moving forward, I think, looking as a board, as individual board members, how can we get out into the community and hear back from
Right, right.
parents in a more casual setting where we can have that back and forth discussion
Right.
because
I
that
think
helps
you-
us.
I think you ought to have a coffee with Kristen. You and a couple, not the whole board, but maybe one other one this month, and next month it's somebody else, and just have a place and say, we're going to be there on Saturday at 10 o'clock, come and see us. You might only get 3 people, but you know what? Those 3 people will be very involved. So you're right. I think you got to start with a conversation. And typically the problems percolate to the top first, but eventually the good ideas come from those. People see things through different lenses, and to you think something that's normal, they look at it and say, point it out to you, and you say, I never thought of that.
Well, they have they have really valid suggestions
yeah, 'cause
because
they're
they're living
involved. Yeah.
they're living a different experience
yeah.
than what we're having as board members. I have a second grader. I don't
I
have a
was gonna
middle
say,
schooler.
You got young kids, and
Yeah.
with that, your daughter was in high school, you'd be having another set of problems.
I would have a different view at that
Exactly.
point of
Yeah.
my own experience.
Yeah.
So I want to hear from everybody. You bring that up about having coffee. Miss Colors and I did something similar like
Right.
that last year with South River. And the attendance was poor.
Right.
But I think not to be discouraged in situations like
Sure.
that because now we have a lot more people that want to have those conversations. So I think trying it again is going to be worthwhile.
Well, people, like you say, they want their children to succeed, and what they always say is, parents in general want their children to have more and be better than what they are. And I think that's kind of like the American dream. I mean, I don't think you're going to get anyone to disagree with that. And but you got to give them the tools to work with, and there's all sorts of different things. And you try. I mean, I know this year you tried different things at Skyline Middle School.
We are
And
trying the 7-period day.
Trying to try
seeing how
something
that works.
different there, and just you got to try it, see what sticks. What they say, if you throw enough stuff against the wall,
Well, and I mean, the same is true. If we just keep doing the exact same thing, we
Yep.
can't expect for it to be different.
It won't be different.
It took a long time for us to get where we are.
Right.
So it's not going to be a fix overnight, but I feel really optimistic that we're moving in the right direction with this conversation.
I think people just like say people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and I think the school board does care. I mean,
do.
I've had a lot of conversations with you and your members, and everyone is serious about having one of the best school districts that we can possibly produce. And I think
Yeah.
we got rid of we've got to the stage where our buildings are in great shape.
They are.
Now we need to start working on all the soft skills.
Right.
What's inside the building.
We do, absolutely. That needs to be our main focus
Right.
moving forward, and it is. We have a very engaged board,
Right,
and
right.
we want to hear from everybody
Right.
and have those conversations.
So how was this? That Dawn flashed in my old brain. Teacher shortages. We always hear a lot about that. How was it this year for you?
We're still actively bringing teachers on board. Last night, one of the things that we did do is sort of an in-between option for those teachers that are almost to having their license. So maybe
Right.
they're just waiting to finish up their class, or
Right.
they're finishing up their praxis. So a way for them to be a Warren County Public Schools employee, but they're not a teacher yet.
Right.
But it's hinging on just this kind of one final
Right.
step. So I think that's going to open it up. It's going to open it up for our grow your own teachers
That's an
to be able to
important
do
thing,
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And a lot of places do that. You groom it and you grow. Like you say, you're going to almost have to take one of your high school students
Mm-hmm.
and help them through college to get their. They do that in public service.
Well, that's the grow your own program
That's it.
here.
That's
I mean,
what we
our
have to
teachers-
do. It's a good way to invest some of our money in. You put that ball and chain on them, they got to come back. You know what I mean?
Well, and they're the people that are already invested in our
They
community.
love it here.
They
right.
want to be here.
They want to be here, and I think
Yeah.
that makes a big difference.
It does.
It's one thing about having a job, and it's another thing what they say having a career.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with being a teacher. I think it's a great
Absolutely.
career, and I think people that love it. And some people try it, not for them,
Right.
and that's okay. They'll find out. That's good. Better to find out early than 30 years later.
No, we have wonderful teachers,
We
and
do.
I don't
Everyone
question.
everyone I've talked to has been great, and I think they're all trying to do the best they can with what they've got. Sometimes they got one hand tied behind their back, and they're limited in what they're doing. So
Well, and that's something that we can help them with as well. We want them to be supported, from the board
Right.
down. So that's a partnership moving forward as well. So
well, let's get together here after the next work session,
Okay.
and let's see if we can bring in another board member with you, and let's kind of keep this dialogue going, because I think once we can bring it. Because I can tell you though, when we put those videos up of your work session, we get hundreds and hundreds of views, and sometimes they're 3 and 4 hours long, and but people watch that because they're interested and they want to know, because not that many people show up at Diversified Minds because the room is not very big, but
it's not
we
made
gotta
for that
get a
kind
better
of thing.
place.
It's not made for a true meeting.
No. And it's not really. It's a terrible room. The air conditioner's too loud.
Well, we're either hot or we're cold there, but we do appreciate you always coming to film
we always
it.
show up, Mark, and I
we
show
appreciate
up
that.
there, but it's almost more people watch that than the regular meeting. I've looked at the numbers because that's where stuff happens.
That's where the discussion happens. The work session is meant to be, this is where we're talking about the upcoming policies. This is where we're working through what changes we're going to
Right.
want to make. And then our regular first of the month meeting
Sure.
should generally be, okay, these are the action items that we've already talked about at length at our work sessions.
Yay, nay, move on to the next one, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the discussion.
little-
But people are really interested in our school system, and it shows just by the amount of readers we have on these stories and watching the videos. And
Right.
it surprised me. I thought, who wants to watch that boring old 4-hour?
No, we want them to be involved. That's great.
They do. That's great, and people are. And so they may not be there physically, but I think they just need to know that you want them to come and you want them to send you emails and
Yes.
send, open a
Phone
dialogue.
calls, emails,
Phone
any of the
calls,
things.
That's right. Yeah. So we'll put your private number in the stuff. We wouldn't do that to you, but I do know that you do encourage. You have an email address for the school, and you do encourage people to contact you. So we'll put that in the story.
The other thing that Mr. Grant recently changed is we do have our individual ones listed, but there is now actually one school board email that comes to all 5 of us.
Oh, that's good.
So that's easier for people if
Yeah.
they just want to reach the whole board at once.
That's really the best way to do it, because that way if one school member doesn't say anything or they're too busy or it's not a priority, guess what? Everybody else knows about it.
Yeah, we try to do a good job of forwarding things amongst ourselves
Yeah,
so that we do
yeah.
all stay up to date on it. But no, this makes it easier
That's
for
great.
anybody
That's
that
a
wants
good
to
idea.
contact us.
I have that at my office too. That's why, because I want everybody to see what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah, that way no one's in charge and everyone's in charge.
Right, everyone's at fault.
Kristen, you've done such a great job as chairman of the board. I congratulate you on that. You've been a voice of reason, and I know you've tried to keep the dialogue going. So hopefully that'll continue with you. And we wanted you to come back. We want you to bring somebody else with you. We want to continue this dialogue and encourage conversations with our community members and your clients.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me here
I think
today.
it's a great idea. All right, what to bring your daughter in so we can quiz her on how well you.
She'd have a lot to say.
I'm sure she would. Thanks again, Kristen.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate it.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it.